6 chords. What in the world is a 6 chord? Why do we need it? Why did we even let this thing on the team? Well, I was getting ready for this, doing preparations, as I do, and I was trying to find the perfect analogy for a 6 chord. So, even though I'm a Marvel guy, this is what I came up with. If Superman is a major 7, dominant 7's Wonder Woman, and of course Batman has to be a minor chord. The 6 chord is like Green Lantern. You're like, why is this person on the team? But we're glad they're there, right? Not really sure exactly what this person does, but you keep running into them every now and then. And the 6 chord is a lot like that. It works fantastic with other chords. It doesn't have as much prominence, if you will, as the major 7 or even a minor chord or even the dominant 7. But the 6th chord has its place. And so in today's Chords and Coffee, if you'll watch this, if you'll commit to seeing this lesson all the way through, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get some great chord voicings that you can use instantly. If you start plugging these into the blues forms that you already know, boom, instantly. You're going to have kind of a jazzy sound. If you're playing country, you're going to have kind of a western swing kind of element. And all it's going to be is just plugging in this chord instead of a dominant 7 chord. You're going to get a really cool little turnaround that I'm going to show you that emphasizes the relationship between the 6th and the dominant 7. But before we get into all that, like, what is the sound of a 6 chord? You know what this is. If you're a Beatles fan, you know, day after day, alone on a hill. That first chord, that's that 6th sound, right? Maybe, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Lenny. That chord right there, along with the... all these chords. All of those chords are 6th chords. And a 6th chord is just the 1, the 3, the 5, and then a 6th. We'll get to what's called a 13 chord. Don't tune off. I could just feel somebody going, too many numbers. No, a dominant 7 with a 6 is just going to be a 13. We'll get to that in just a second. That's a really useful chord, okay? But there's other things too. A lot of times the 6th chord will be with like a major 7. Like if you watch the, It's Known That Your Door Is On, the Gentle on My Mind lesson. I couldn't think of the song title. Gentle on My Mind. You've got a major 7, and then a 6, just like, you give your hand to me, and you say hello. That's a 6, hello, right? That 6th chord, it works so beautifully with major 7 too. It's a nice little transition kind of movement chord, if you will. So let's get into some chord voicings here. So we're going to do this in the key of C. Why? Because we just did a tension and release. And in fact, if you watched that episode, you know that I mentioned that we were going to do this. Here we are. And so I want to keep this all in the same key so it's useful for you. So before I do that, I want to get untangled here on this, the perils of Chords and Coffee. And I'm going to talk about this coffee. This is Bad Cat Coffee. John Thompson and them are up in there. They're going to make amplifiers, bada bing, bada boom. And just like the robust, tonesome flavor of Bad Cat, why wouldn't you make a coffee to match it? So we're going to drink a little bit of this. I need me a little snort of coffee here this morning just to get going. You know what I mean? I love y'all, but sometimes I just need a little help. I need a little extra. So let's move this out of the way. Let's take this here. Let's taste of the fruit and the nectar. John Thompson and Co. I have no pretense that John Thompson is back there growing coffee beans in the back parking lot of Bad Cat, but they partnered with somebody to bring us this good coffee, so here we go. Roar. I can taste all the particles of Bad Cat in there. All those misbehaving kitties, every last one of them. It's delicious. Thank you for the coffee. Was that weird? I don't know. Comment below. Stuff I say on camera sometimes. One more drink. Good stuff. All right, so here comes some 6 chords. Buckle up, buttercups. Tune up. We're in standard. So, again, going back to that tension and release lesson, we talked about how if you take an A minor chord, we're in the key of C, and if I play index finger on the first fret of the B, Ring finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the G. Middle finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the D. Now pinky is going to be on the 3rd fret of the A. That is A minor over C, or A minor over C in the bass, equals C6. That's that sound. And if you've been watching these Chords and Coffees, you know part of our aim here, part of our hope, is that we're trying to get our ear to expand a little bit and accept a little bit of tension, just a little bit of tension in our resolution. And you can hear that there. There's just like kind of an unresolved quality, but what I'm going to show you is there's some other voicings here in a second. You'll be able to end a song on, and it'll sound great just as much as ending a song like on a dominant 7 chord. Sounds great now too, right? So, okay, that's your first C6. Let's get another one. This one is super useful. You're gonna use it all the time. This one is kind of interesting because we're gonna do a bar, but it's sort of an inefficient bar, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. So you got your middle finger on the A string, 3rd fret. You've got your index finger is gonna be on the 2nd fret of the D and the G, and you kind of can't help it. You're gonna go ahead and bar that B and that high E, so you don't have to bend at the knuckle there. Just go ahead and lay your finger straight across there. Lay it there like you just don't care. And then your pinky is gonna go on the 5th fret of the B, and you're not gonna play the high E at all. If you just start to kind of move that back and forward a little bit, it already starts to sound a little bit of jazziness to that. All right, now the next one, this is a C6 that goes like this. Full disclosure, I do not use this voicing a lot, but I wanted to show you this because what's interesting about this is making A minor on the top 3 strings here. I'm just going to lay my pinky on the high E, the B, and the G, and I'm also going to lay it on the D. Then I'm going to put my index finger on the 3rd fret of the A. And that, what's nice about that is you can kind of see the A minor in that C, right? All right, let's do another one. Let's do this guy here. This is the linear voicing here. Now you're going to have middle finger on the 8th fret of the low E. We're going to skip the A. We're going to have index finger on the D string of the 7th fret. Your pinky is going to be on the 9th fret of the G, and then your middle or your ring finger is going to be on the 8th fret of the B. And that's a movable shape. Love that one. And then this one, we've talked about this one a bunch, but here it comes again. This one's going to be index finger on the 8th fret of the low E, skipping the A. You're going to have your ring finger on the 10th fret of the D. You're going to have your middle finger on the 9th fret of the G. And then your pinky is going to be on the 10th fret of the B. And then finally, this guy right here. That always reminds me of 2 of Us by the Beatles. Those intervals right there, right? And so this is a really cool chord. This is index finger is going to be on the 10th fret of the D. Ring finger is going to be on the 12th fret of the G, and then middle finger is going to be on the 10th fret of the B, and then pinky is going to be on the 12th fret of the high E. I think the first time I learned that, that's I think it's in Kenny Burrell's, is it Soul Lament? This is where I shouldn't be doing this on camera because I'm trying to figure out a song I hadn't played in years. But anyway, it's in the turnaround part of that song. That thing. Again, a 6th chord is a lot of times when you see a lot of these different chord melody or even just people doing, really lush turnarounds and nice dense harmony, and you go, God, what are they playing? A lot of times they're just playing a inversion or a different voicing of like a 6th chord or a major 7 or a dominant 7 to build this sense of either tension or forward momentum, because you can kind of hear some melodic interchange from voicing to voicing. Does that make sense? If not, stay tuned. Let me give you some more chords. So those were all 6th chords. There's another chord that comes up a lot that gets associated with these 6 chords, and it's this 6/9. It's basically just a major chord that's got a 6th in it, and it's got a 9th. And I figured this would be a great time just to give you these two. I'm going to give you 2 voicings for this, don't get too nervous. So you've got your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the C, or the A string playing the C note. And then you're going to have your index finger laying on the 2nd fret of the D and the G. And then your ring finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B, pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E. And listen to this all together here. Definitely like an ending kind of sound. Beatles did that a lot, and that's also in a lot of just different kind of, jazzy kind of music. Take this same idea and then move it up here. And what's really cool here is you can actually take your middle finger and put this on the 8th fret. So middle finger, 8th fret of the low E. Index finger is going to start on the D and hold down the D and the G on the 7th fret. And then, again, your ring finger and pinky are both going to be on the 8th fret, ring finger on the 8th fret of the B, and then pinky on the 8th fret of the high E. So you got this. You can also take your middle finger completely off there and put him on the G string. And if you just kind of move that around and just melodic in like there's some really cool movement you can do with just that shape. Aren't those amazing? So you might be thinking right now, Nate, what could I do with that? Well, I mean, if you're just playing, like imagine if you were playing, so like a 1-4-5. But instead of playing just a regular old C and a regular old F and a regular old G, I'm going to play the 6th chord. Instantly, that makes it so much more jazzy, so much more Western swing, and it sort of wants to embrace this idea of working on the same team as the dominant 7. Okay, so you got all these 6 chords, right? And hopefully you're starting to see how these 6 chords, they sound really cool unto themselves, but also they work beautifully with a major 7, but also they add like a nice little degree of movement with the dominant 7, right? So what you can do is, like, for example, take a 9 chord. The old James Brown, like here's a C9. You got your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the A. You got your index finger on the 2nd fret of the D. And you got your ring finger laying across the G, the B, and the high E on the 3rd fret. Well, I can make that a 13 chord just by laying my pinky on the high E. What's a 13 chord? Super simple, friend. Don't stress about it. It's a 1, it's a 3, it's a 5, it's a flat 7, and also since it started off as a 9 chord, it's going to have a 9 in it, plus it's going to have the 6. Now, the difference between a 6 and a 13, when you see 13, what's really happening is whoever wrote that song or whoever wrote that chord chart is wanting you to know that that 6th, I would prefer it to be an octave above the root. Now, one of the things about guitar that you're going to find that, I don't know if it's unique to guitar, but it certainly comes up in the world of guitar as I have found in my own experience, is that a lot of times chord charts are written and they're sort of written in vague generalities most of the time. And as a guitar player, you kind of have to be able to take that information and figure out what's going to work best depending upon what the rest of the ensemble is doing. What's interesting about guitar, and I don't mean to say that no other instrument is this way, I'm just telling you what I've been figuring out along the way of the journey that I'm on, is that guitar really lends itself to playing. I mean, you can play completely solo and do all these things and be very busy doing, chord melody and a real lush arrangement of a tune, or you could be playing very sparsely in a large group. And a lot of times you got to look at a chord chart and you got to be able to kind of figure that out really quick. And what I'm telling you is not to make you panic and go, how am I going to know? What I'm telling you is that as we are learning this information, we kind of have to learn discernment along with decoding a chord chart. And so as you're looking at the chart, you kind of have to know, based on the situation that you're in and what the other instrumentation or maybe a lack thereof, you have to kind of know what's the most important thing to do. And the only way to, I think, to do that is to just embrace that fact from day one and just know that I am going to be playing with people at some point, and I'm always going to be mindful of that. And if I'm not, and it's just me solo, then I'll do whatever I want to do and as much of or as little that I want to do. So why am I telling you that? Well, I'm telling you that is when you see a 13 chord of any kind, that's asking for the 6th. They prefer to have it on top if at all possible, but you don't always have to do that. I hope that made sense to you. So let's get some 13 chords in our hands here real quick. This is one of my favorite grips of all time. I love it. This is like the perfect temperature of a hot tub. You know what I mean? It's just warm, it's nice, nobody's getting hurt, and everybody wants in. So you got your index finger on the 8th fret, C13. You're skipping the A. You got your middle finger on the 8th fret, by the way, index finger on the 8th fret of the low E, skipping the A, middle finger on the 8th fret of the D, and then your ring finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the G, and then your pinky is going to be on the B string of the 10th fret. One more. This is my favorite, but this is a very close second. And this one is just a beautiful, funky thing. And actually, I've taught on this grip before, and I actually saw a John Schofield, a video of him playing at a music shop somewhere, and he was playing a Telecaster, and so that kind of caught my eye. And I saw this grip that he was playing. And it's a 13, and so think of it this way. I'm going to give it to you down here so then you can slide it up above here. So we're going to be on the 1st fret of the A string on that B flat note. So the flat 7's on the bottom. And then we're going to have, you know what, I think you have to do it with your ring finger. Do it with your ring finger, 2nd fret of the D. Pinky, 2nd fret of the G. And then middle finger, 1st fret of the B. Now when I play it low like that, that does not sound like a C chord unless I go like this. Even that sounds kind of weird, but that's why you slide it up a full octave all the way up here to the 13th fret and the 14th fret. You hear it there, and that sounds nice, right? But what's cool about that is because you've got this flat 7 on the bottom, it sort of lends itself to adding some interest, especially if I'm kind of hanging on this chord. So if I combine this C9 with the 13 in there, plus this guy, that kind of sounds like something, right? And in my mind, I'm just thinking C13, right? Or C9 or C dominant 7 kind of vibe, right? And that 6th note gives it just this little point of interest, kind of keeps you engaged, kind of keeps enough attention going, what's next, right? Well, let me tell you what's next now. I want to show you this really cool turnaround. And this is, again, movable. The big thing here is not the turnaround itself, is I want you to understand the theory behind it and how the 6th really opens up this whole new door of thinking about turnarounds as well as dominant 7 chords in general. So this thing's going to go like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on this G, and this is going to be like an F shape. So you're going to have your index finger on the 15th fret of the B, middle finger on the 16th fret of the G, and then your ring finger on the 17th fret of the D. And I'm plucking this like this because I'm trying to kind of emulate this pedal steel kind of thing. And I'm sliding from a half step behind it, so we're going to go down from the G to the F. And that's going to be on the 13 of the B, 14 of the G, and then the ring finger is going to be on the 15th of the D. Now this part's going to be 12, 11, and 10. And I'm on the G, or excuse me, the D, the G, and the B string, and I literally got my index finger laid straight across. And so think of this as G, F, G, G flat F, and then here comes this whole 6th idea. E minor, E flat minor, G minor, C. Well, what does the E minor have to do with anything? Well, just like we did A minor, over C equals C6. E minor over G, and then D minor over F. E minor over G is G6, D minor over F is F6, and then back to C, right? You see that relationship? So one more time. So I got a G, an F, a G on the 12th fret, an F on the 10th fret, straight across here, and then E minor, and I've got my middle finger on the 8th fret of the B. I've got my pinky on the 9th fret of the G, and then my ring finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the D. And then walk that down chromatically. So now I'm on 7, 8, 8, then 6, 5, 5 for the D minor, then straight across here on the 5th fret for that C. Cool little turnaround that you can move around a bunch of different keys. I got that I saw a Guthrie Trapp lesson that he did on Instagram, and he did that. And if you haven't followed Guthrie Trapp on Instagram, you absolutely should. He is an incredible guitar player, really great teacher too, and I've talked about him before. But that's a really cool turnaround that uses sixes in conjunction with just some really simple chords. And again, the E minor and the D minor are the 6th, because if you take the 6th scale degree, so in this case, if I'm in the key of C, 6 is A, and I put it over C, that makes a C6. Just like E minor and G combined together makes a G6. D minor and F makes an F6. Do you see that? If you don't, that's totally fine. Comment below and we'll talk about it. You know what? Sometimes you don't realize, but your comments literally are inventing chords and coffee lessons. Like beans in the bag, friend. The comments in the comments section are how we brew up these chords and coffees. So don't be bashful. Don't be shy. And heavens to Murgatroyd, your question that you're worried about asking and worried about commenting might be the burning question in 1,000 different hearts. So please comment below. Your questions help. We're here to encourage one another. We're here to encourage one another to be the best guitar players we can, but we have a little saying around here, we're living life best we can with a guitar in our hand. That's what we're doing. And the fact that y'all are willing to get up on a Saturday morning every 9 a.m. on YouTube and get in the live chat and leave your comments means the world to me. So thank you. You are encouraging me. I hope this encourages you. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I hope your coffee tastes good. We'll see you next Saturday for another Chords and Coffee.